to really fight for causes that are important to marginalized communities. And for me, I've been working for police accountability since 2015 when I first took office, indicting an officer, which resulted in a conviction that I handled myself back in 2016, indicting another officer, dismissing charges against protesters, and indicting another officer within the past few weeks. And so those who are committed to protecting the members of our community who typically don't get protected, it has been our time to continue to step up even in the face of attacks, because right now the atmosphere is different. So it's really time for those who are unafraid to step forward and continue to lead as we have done. And that's why I appreciate you, because a lot of times this feels lonely, and it feels like we're fighting all these different battles coming from different directions. And oftentimes you don't have the energy to fight those fights, but there are people in our community who are counting on us to fight whether we feel like it or not. So I appreciate you. And I know tonight we're supposed to talk about the impact of mass incarceration, and what that does to our communities and to marginalized communities, and the impact of reentry and what that means.
Yeah, you know, I was talking to a principal that's a principal in Chicago of a jail for children. And what he was telling me was, come here for a second. What he was telling me was, number one, there's no windows, you know, and number two, when they come out, there's no place for them to live, so they all come back. And what we know about education is they build the jails based on how many people don't graduate. And because it's independent sector, which means it's like someone that owns a hotel that has a contract with the government, they get paid per bed, you know, so their job is to keep those beds filled. And that's the reason why I feel that when people are incarcerated, they don't get rehabilitated, they just get prepped to come back. I'm trying to ask Daniel. Oh, there you go. You know, so I'm gonna go into the schools and also into the system and try to get with the children, the younger people that are completely traumatized. You know, of it. What's up, Daniel?
What's up? What's up? What's up?
I'm good. I'm good. I wanted to make sure I brought a good perspective in there. One of us talking to one of us. We got the district attorney, Stephanie Morales, the one that's really superheroing out there. But, you know, I want to get your perspective on things as well. We were talking about prison and prison reform and the prison system. And I was just discussing how you're not prepared when you come out. If you don't have a place to live, 80% go back. If you're not educated, that's a sure sign that you're going to go back. And also the food they give you isn't healthy. So you lifting weights, but your organs is messed up. You come out with diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease. So, you know, we have a lot of friends in common that have gone through this struggle, that have come home, and they have to get reacclimated any way they can, you know? So, you know, I'm gonna start the conversation with that. And, you know, that's how I felt. And actually, Stephanie brought it up. What's your take on that? Prison and prison reform and the way the system is?
No, I really don't have a take on it. I think it's a game. Okay? A type of game that they play, psychological mind games with everybody. It's a system where they make money off of us at the same time. And the blacks, unfortunately, we're at the end of it. We the ones suffer the most from it. You know, growing up in the hood when we was young, it was kind of like we all looked forward to going to jail at one time because we knew we was in the streets.
Well, you always knew it was part of the game.
Kind of came with it. That's the lifestyle. It kind of seemed like came with it. And that's why I mean when I say it's a psychological game, because in people's mind in the hood, they not worrying about going to jail. You got some brothers that do better in jail than they do out here. So that system has just been real crazy. It's just real crazy if you think about it. And when you get older, you realize what's going on. That's why most of the brothers that's older, they don't go to jail as much because they realize it's a system and, you know, we got better things to do with our lives out here and all that. But, you know, the sister Stephanie, she's real powerful on her end as well for everything that she's in Virginia, you know, because it's not just the system of us thinking we're going to have to go to jail. A lot of that shit calls from the police. They catch you right or wrong. A lot of times you going to jail just because they were. And with a sister like her around, maybe some of that can stop. You know, we need more sisters like her. So y'all need to get to know her, give her props, because she's amazing. Because she's standing up
Thank
for
you.
all the people like us that have been falsely accused. You know, it's a lot of times I myself been arrested and they was putting shit on me that I didn't do. You know? And I just used to wonder, like, this your job. Why are you doing this? You know what I mean? So it's a system, and it's crazy, bro. It's crazy when you live in it. But
Well, think about how traumatizing it is, whether you're convicted, guilty or not, to be put in a cell, not knowing or being able to talk someone through it on a therapy level, and not understanding what your future looks like, and then being incarcerated for 10 years and not being allowed to make a living and only getting paid $12 a week. What is it preparing you for? And I also notice that when I go into an average school, an average hospital, an average courtroom, an average anything like that, same lighting, same building, same bricks, it's all the same environment. So my thing is, you know, when slavery became illegal, there was still slave owners or people that had them were like, okay, slavery is not legal. How do we make them slaves without them knowing it? Well, what we'll do is oppress them, make them fight each other. And then what we'll do is disenfranchise their family, because when one man kills another man, both men are taken. One goes to jail, one's gone, and
yeah,
the mother has to raise a child on its own. And all that happens is the mother got to work so much that the kid gets raised by the street and ends up in the
it's
same
all a
cycle.
game.
So to me, it's all been a way to make. And now what happens is you legally in cuffs, you legally in a cage. Instead of having a slave master, you got a warden or a CO, and now you're working for slave wages legally. And they've made that, like you said, a part of survival. If I got to eat, I'm going to hurt my people, go to jail for it, and be prepared for that, you know? And that's the programming that we need to stop. But also us having an understanding of our laws and what we can do. Because a lot of times, if we take the time and get a license to do things, you could carry a gun. It's legal. You don't have to do it illegally. You know, back in the day, if you don't understand marijuana, then you could be potentially able to just grow your own. You know, you just have to really know your rights. And a lot of times we don't know our rights, and we get put in positions where we're traumatized, anxiety, and start to do and say things that also get us put in jail. So I'm gonna let the district attorney talk, because we both talk. I want to hear her take on it.
One thing that it's important to point out, in light of everything that you both just said, we have a system of mass incarceration, and what statistics are showing us is that we are simultaneously over incarcerated and becoming less safe. And so it is a proven fact that this mass incarceration, it's not making us any safer. It's actually creating more unsafe environments. It's making it so that our communities are missing critical members of our society who would be contributing. We've still got people right now who are incarcerated because of marijuana related offenses, or who cannot get expungement because of marijuana related expenses and convictions. And we have now a lot of laws that have been taken off the books. So we should not have anybody incarcerated for something that lawmakers have now said this is no longer against the law. That's just one small example of how problematic this system of mass incarceration. Then on the other hand, you know, people are not talking about the psychological component. If this is your first time being incarcerated, your first time being locked up, you've been snatched out of your community. You may miss your car payment. You may miss your first day at work and you get fired. You now have no way to provide for your family. Your life is destroyed. You may now, and this is whether you get exonerated or not, you may come out of incarceration. And we have these housing authorities that have rules in place that ban people from incarceration. You know, they've been previously incarcerated. They're coming out. If their grandmother, their aunt, or whomever they have to stay with lives in public housing, and they can't go and live with those people without the rest of them getting kicked out, they're now homeless. They have nowhere to go. So we literally have a system that is creating recidivism. constantly. And there are entities set up, reentry councils in different cities, that are there for the purpose of helping people. But what happens a lot is all the officials from my office, the DA's office, the clerk's office, social services, all these different agencies will sit around and talk about all the programs that they have to each other, and it's not reaching those who are coming out of incarceration and helping the people who actually need the help. So this is, something that has been designed in a certain way, and it's not broken. It's actually working the way it was designed to work. And that's where we have to truly acknowledge that this system, it is designed in a way that it's going to continue to create oppression for communities of color and marginalized communities.
So with having an understanding of that, that's a triggering problem. And my thing is a solution, right? So for me, my dream is to be able to build transitional rehab facilities. Number one, before you get out, you got to know how to use a phone, you got to know how to use banking on the phone, get you up to speed with technology. Also, start preparing you for new hustles. If you go into a jail and teach somebody how to make furniture, it might be hard to make furniture, or in a place where they could. A skill that might deal with space travel, with the metaverse, with the new ways we're making money, AI, all those kind of things. And like you said, what we know is that when someone comes home from jail and doesn't have a home to come to, then they have to function illegally. So they're on their way back. So maybe making sure that they have a place to sleep and stay until they're completely on their feet, but not in a shelter vibe, more of a college vibe. And also get them to therapy, get them healthy. So whatever problems they had from being in jail because they didn't and weren't able to eat and work out correctly, get them back on a diet and a program so you get your mind right, your body right, and your economics right. And that way they don't come back.
Yeah.
My dream is to have a facility like that is not clicking because nobody's going to jail anymore. They're not coming back. So the question would be, how would one be able to implement that going into a marketplace and trying to figure out, because everything is outsourced, the government pays, it's mostly independent sector. How do we become the independent sector that they hire? There's money there. Why not give it to the ones that really want to help?
Mm-hmm.
We have to come with a plan. We have to come with a solution. We have to know how the government spends the money so they can become our clients as opposed to clients of those that are just trying to oppress us.
Yeah, and
that's the understanding is how to make the change.
Yeah, and I will say this to your point about the funding. We know that mass incarceration and funding incarceration, that funding is being spent way more than it is on education, and a lot of the other things, housing, food security. We really are spending so much money on incarceration that there should be no reason why there wouldn't be funding for exactly what you're talking about. It's really clear. Like, even if the money doesn't appear to be there, we know it's there because it's there for the incarceration. And so another thing is diversion. As a prosecutor, we have conversations about how to divert people out of the system in the first place. Everything does not call for incarceration. If it's not a murder, if it's not a shooting, if it's not a rape, if it's not something that's extremely violent and dangerous for our community, and a person has committed a crime that is not harming another person, then we need to be talking about how to address this and have culpability and accountability without incarceration. And so how do we divert? How do we find resources, utilize them in different ways? And that is something that, prosecutors help people, they can get very competitive. They might want that conviction rate. But for me, it's about, once again, what has been happening to our communities of color and our marginalized communities for all these years. And I cannot disconnect myself as a Black woman and Black mother from what our communities are experiencing.